The blade was already drawn. It hovered inches from her neck, catching the pale blue light of dawn as it crept through the lattice windows. The executioner's hands were steady. He had done this many times before. Too many. Behind him, the king stood in silence, his face carved from grief and rage, his eyes empty wells where mercy once lived. The woman knelt on cool marble, her wrists bound with silk cord. She did not scream, she did not beg. Instead, she spoke. "My king," she whispered, her voice calm despite the nearness of death. "If I may, allow me to finish the story." The executioner hesitated. The king's fingers tightened. Outside, the city of brass domes and narrow alleys held its breath. Another dawn, another bride to be erased from memory. But this woman with ink-stained fingers and fearless eyes, was smiling, because the story was not finished, and neither was she. The kingdom of Al-Qamar was once known for laughter. Travelers spoke of its perfumed markets, its lantern-lit streets, its music that drifted like warm wind through open windows at night. Merchants stayed longer than planned. Poets found their voices there. Children slept without fear. That was before the betrayal, before the queen fled with another man, before King Shahryar ibn Karim discovered her absence at dawn, her pillows cold, her jewels gone, her chambers echoing with silence. Grief hollowed him. Rage rebuilt him. He returned from the desert a changed man, his heart armored in iron certainty. No woman would ever betray him again, because none would live long enough to try. So he made a decree. Each night, a virgin bride would be chosen. Each dawn, she would be executed. It was justice, he said. It was balance. It was protection against pain. And the city that once glowed with joy learned to whisper. Mothers hid their daughters. Fathers avoided the palace gates. Every sunrise came with mourning bells and unmarked graves, until the night Scheherazade, daughter of the royal librarian, stepped forward. Scheherazade had grown up among stories. Her father, Hakim the keeper, guarded the kingdom's vast library, a maze of scrolls, tablets, and stitched leather books older than memory itself. As a child, she slept between shelves, lulled by myths of clever queens, cursed kings, wandering heroes, and spirits bound by words. She learned early that stories were not escapes, they were weapons. She also learned something else. Every tyrant is haunted by a fear he refuses to name. When the decree was announced, Scheherazade watched the city break, and she decided she would not. That night, she washed, dressed in white silk, and kissed her father's trembling hands. "I will marry the king," she said. Hakim wept. "You will die." She replied softly, "Perhaps, or perhaps I will live." The palace at night was a different creature. By day it was gold and ceremony. By night it was shadow and echo, corridors stretching like ribs, torches flickering like uncertain thoughts. Scheherazade was led to the king's chamber alone. Shahryar sat beside the window, his crown set aside, his expression distant. He did not look at her when she entered. "Sit," he said. She obeyed. They ate in silence. The meal tasted of dust and inevitability. Finally, she spoke. "My king," she said, lowering her eyes, "I know what dawn brings, but before it comes, may I tell you a story?" He laughed once, bitter and sharp. "What value does a story have against truth?" She met his gaze. "It depends on whose truth is being told." Something in her voice, steady, unafraid, stirred a long-buried curiosity. "You may speak. It will not save you." Scheherazade smiled. She began. She told of a prince who built walls around his palace after being betrayed, sealing every door except one. He believed solitude would protect him. Instead, it starved him. Her voice painted moonlit deserts, echoing halls, a prince who mistook pain for wisdom. As the story unfolded, Shahryar leaned forward without realizing it. When the tale reached its most dangerous moment, when the prince stood on the edge of destruction, Scheherazade stopped. Dawn's light brushed the curtains. The executioner entered. "Finish the story," Shahryar ordered suddenly. Scheherazade bowed her head. "Tonight, my king." The blade was lowered. For the first time in 3 years, a bride lived to see another sunset. Word spread like forbidden fire. The king's new wife lived. Every night, Scheherazade told a new tale, sometimes heroic, sometimes tragic, sometimes tender enough to ache. She told of merchants outwitted by beggars, of queens who ruled with compassion, of monsters who were once human, and always, always she ended at the edge of revelation. The king began to wait for nightfall. He questioned her about the characters. He argued with her endings. Sometimes he grew angry, sometimes quiet. Slowly, something dangerous happened. He began to feel again. But Scheherazade felt the danger too. One wrong word, one careless metaphor, one night where the story failed to grip him and the blade would return. She learned his silences, his tales, the way his jaw tightened when reminded of betrayal, the way his eyes softened at unexpected kindness. Still, danger crept closer. Viziers whispered, executioners grew restless, the old order was being disrupted, and Shahryar himself began to ask questions Scheherazade feared. "Why do your stories always spare the guilty?" he asked one night. She chose her words carefully. "Because punishment without understanding only multiplies pain." His gaze hardened. "You speak boldly for someone who lives on my mercy." She bowed. "I speak boldly because of it." That night, she dreamed of knives. On the 100th night, the king did not ask for a story. He rose from his seat and stood before her, the dawn already threatening the horizon. "You have delayed long enough," he said quietly. "Tonight you must finish." Scheherazade's heart thundered. She nodded. Then she told the final tale. She told of a king who believed himself just, who punished betrayal with fire and called it law, a king who never looked at the faces of the dead, until one night a mirror spoke. The mirror showed him not his enemies, but himself, the blood, the fear, the kingdom shrinking under his rule. As she spoke, her voice trembled, not with fear, but truth. "You cannot kill pain," she said softly, still within the story. "You can only decide whether it ends with you or continues through others." Silence swallowed the room. Dawn arrived. The executioner stepped forward. Shahryar raised his hand, and then he fell to his knees. The king wept. For the first time since the queen's betrayal, he wept openly, violently, as if something inside him had finally broken free. "Enough! Enough death!" he said. The blade fell, not on her neck, but to the floor. The decree was undone. The prisons emptied. The bells rang, not for mourning, but for awakening. Scheherazade lived. More than that, she ruled beside him, not as a shadow, but as a voice. Stories returned to the streets, laughter followed, and every night the king asked her for a tale, not to delay death, but to remember life. And so the kingdom learned what one woman with a voice and courage could change, because stories do not just entertain, they save lives. If this tale moved you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in the power of words. And tell us in the comments, if you had one night to save your life with a story, what story would you tell?